stuff. So the monster I'm going to make right now is a skeleton. Um, yeah. So I got D&D Beyond open over here. And I'm viewing this after the Mimic yesterday. Mimic was a very liberating experience. After the Mimic yesterday, I'm viewing this as an opportunity to right the wrongs that I feel in 6 years certain monsters have had to live with. So I definitely want to sort of address that. I'm tempted to start getting my old monster manuals out from older editions of D&D to make sure that some of those abilities are included, but we'll see. Alright, I'm going to say that a skeleton, by its very nature, is a little junky. It's a little garbage. So we're going to make a level 1 skeleton. A skeleton, according to its 5e stat block, is all about filling the basic bitch role, right? Skeleton is there. It's got a little short bow. It's got a long bow. I never understand why it has that stuff by default. I mean, who dies with their short bow and just conveniently has some arrows? I don't know. Like, skeletons traditionally seem to always have arrows on hand. I want to make a more versatile skeleton than one that has armor scraps, short bow, long bow kind of thing. So there's that. And what else? I don't know. I guess that's about it. It has bad armor. It's got bad hit points, and it's vulnerable to bludgeoning. So, I mean, in a way, they're almost like the minions of their time. So they're not very good at anything, to be honest. So I think that they would probably just be a striker. Their job is to, land a couple hits before they die. So we're gonna make our level 1 skeleton a striker. We could, and the temptation is there, to make it a minion. But what's cool about the system is any standard monster can be made into a minion. You just go back to your stats, or to your monster stat block, and you just tick it onto minion. And then that'll do all the adjustments for you. Assuming you didn't hard code any of your data in, which is something I'm still having to get to the habit of doing. Alright, so let's see. It's a striker, it's medium, it is an undead, and it has no alignment? Oh wait, Monster Manual says skeletons are lawful evil. I'll be honest, I don't usually go in for the more mindless undead being evil. So I'll probably just leave my skeletons as unaligned. It's kind of where I'm at. Alright, let's see what else they've got. We can display, so we could take this really weird looking picture from the Monster Manual and paste that in, just so we remember who we're dealing with here. And let's keep going. Alright, armor. Their armor class is terrible. Only a 10 armor class, but they've got a buttload of hit points. 33 hit points compared to the normal skeleton that's got 13. That could be because the level is so high. A whopping 1 right there. But the CR right now is still being calculated at a quarter, which is what it normally is listed. So math-wise, allegedly, this is still working out. Alright, they're strikers, so they're all about damage. This damage is only a d4 plus 1. The normal skeleton is dropping a d6 plus 2. Again, Giffyglyph monsters, you're supposed to fight more encounters before you rest, kind of deal. So you're supposed to be able to take more hits from them. So the lesser damage isn't that big of a deal. All right. Speed-wise, 30 feet, no problem. No other special movement is needed. Let's see what we got here. Strength, dexterity, all that jazz. Skeletons are known for their dexterity. After their dexterity, they're actually known for their constitution, then their strength. They're wise, then smart, and then charismatic. Okay. Skill-wise, do skeletons have any skills? They do not. Vulnerabilities, they have them. They are vulnerable to bludgeoning. But you know what they used to have that they got rid of? They had resistance to piercing, so they're going to get it back. There we go. Damage immunities. They are only immune to Poisano. There we go. And condition immunities, exhaustion and poisoned. One of the most interesting things about being immune to exhaustion is it is a guarantee that you will die at 0 hit points. Now, admittedly, most things die at 0 hit points and aren't allowed to have death saving throws except heroes and villains. But officially, as raw as you could possibly get, if you are immune to exhaustion, you will die when you get to 0 health. So if any of your players Evil Genie wish for that, sucks for them. Now, something I don't understand, and I've never understood since I was a child about skeletons, is how do they see things? Because they don't have any eyes. Yeah, right? It's a little weird. It's a little weird. So they give them dark vision, because I guess the spirit that animates them can see. But it's always struck me as super weird. So, I don't know. But we'll give them dark vision, mostly because I don't want to try to think about it too hard. Languages. Technically, skeletons can't speak. So we're going to add... Is custom not an option here? Oh, here we go. At the top. Understands all languages it knew in life but can't speak. Alright, so we can get rid of that. Here we go. We've made it to traits. So, what does a skeleton normally have going for it in 5e? It has a short bow and a short sword. That's what it has going for it. So we could give it an ability like versatile attacker. Okay. And what we're going to do here is skeletons can change the damage type of their attack freely. Dealing either bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. This decision is made before each attack. Now we can just basically say that the skeleton is attacking with whatever piece of shit it has laying around, as shown in this picture, right? How is it doing ranged attacks? We'll get to that in a second. Another thing that skeletons always do, and everybody who writes adventures and plays adventures and runs adventures sort of accepts this, but it's not actually raw, is that you can never tell a skeleton until the skeleton animates, right? So we're going to call it lifeless appearance. And essentially, we're going to add this trait. Here we go. Similar to our other guys, false appearance, right? So we're going to modify this false appearance. But it's going to say, when you remain motionless, you are indistinguishable from a skeletal corpse or pile of bones. Because they are, and we all know that, but there's never actually been an official ability that says that's why you didn't know all those skeletons were going to turn into skeletons. Well, you know what? So 5e was like, undead have it too good. And they're not wrong, because undead were always one of the strongest things you could ever fight, because they were immune to necrotic, to cold. Actually, they were healed by necrotic, Final Fantasy style. They were healed by necrotic, they were immune to cold, they were immune to poison, they were immune to disease. It doesn't even say that the skeleton's immune to disease in its stat block. So I guess you could disease the skeleton? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of problems here. And then they were immune to all mind-affecting spells or immune to illusions. Yeah, so undead had it all. They had it all. And then they were like, that's no fun. what what if you're playing an enchanter, an illusionist, or a bard, and the whole campaign's about undead? What are you supposed to do then? So with 5e, they were like, I don't know, they got to have a brain in there to steer them around. So suddenly undead were affected by charm and illusion magic and everything else. Um, so yeah. I grew up with DMs that would give undead instead of dark vision and stuff like that. They would have life sense. So undead knew where living creatures were, and that was all they cared about, was knowing where living creatures were. Overall, it's just, yeah, it's a weird gray area. But this skeleton being the first of the undead for our Giffyglyphs world slash game, those are tough questions we have to ask ourselves. Does it have any other resistances? Like, why is it hurt by necrotic damage? Like, why isn't it vulnerable to radiant damage? How Final Fantasy are we gonna go? With skeletons and zombies to a certain extent, I kind of feel that they are the most basic and material of undead. Like, if anything, they're more like constructs than undead compared to some of the other undead. But that gets me thinking, what if we take a gander at the flesh golem, who is technically not an undead, but also kind of is an undead? If the flesh golem is more construct than undead, and I feel that the skeleton is also kind of construct, what are these sweet boys getting? Condition immunities: charmed, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. So this is interesting, right? You would think that undead would be immune to frightened, but if they're immune to frightened, how will we ever turn undead? So that's tricky, right? Um, it's all very weird, right? Like, how would you paralyze a skeleton if it doesn't have any muscles to paralyze? Like, yeah, these are legit questions. Um, so let's go back up here real quick. So they're immune to exhaustion and they're immune to poison, but at no point do they say that they're immune to disease. But I guess disease doesn't even come into play in this category. So you would just, as the DM, rule that they're immune to disease. Um, but what else would a skeleton be immune to? Would it be immune to being deafened? Does it have ears? How does it hear? How would you deafen something that doesn't have ears? Can you deafen a ghost? And that's why 5e sort of has this policy of like, get that science and take it somewhere else. Get out of here with that. Um, because a lot of my youth in second edition D&D was spent arguing about this kind of bullshit. So, that being said, I could certainly see some skeletons being immune to being paralyzed because they don't have any muscles or anything. They're just being animated by some kind of spirit. So, sure, we'll throw immunity to paralyzation on there. But we'll somehow have ears and eyes that could be impacted, and a brain and a heart and feelings and all that kind of stuff. How does a bard viciously mock an animated table? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's part of, I guess, the charm of the game. I don't know. So let's just jump back into here. So we've got lifeless appearance, which is like false appearance, but we can get rid of false appearance if we want. Let's see. The skeleton, does it need anything else? It's got versatile attacker. It's got savage assault. Once per turn, it can add its level and extra damage to an attack. I mean, that'd be good for higher level skeletons, not necessarily needed for these skeletons. So I think we're good on traits for now, unless anybody has a cool suggestion for a skeleton trait. This, of course, being the father slash mother of all skeletons and skeleton-like monsters who will come down the pipeline. On that note, maybe we should look up on D&D Beyond other 5th edition monsters that fall under skeleton. We got Thunderbeast skeleton. We've got giant skeleton, minotaur skeleton, skeletal juggernaut. There we go. I do like skeletal juggernaut. That was a fun monster. let's see. That's got your standard skeleton stuff, the skeleton juggernaut. The only thing that's weird about that is Avalanche of Bones, where it can disassemble itself and reassemble itself. We've talked about like thunder affecting creatures because it kind of messes them up. I kind of feel like skeletons would get kind of janked up by like thunder, right? Like it would knock their bones apart, it would literally rattle their bones. Um, so maybe a cool trait would be, well, I guess that's sort of represented already though by their bludgeoning weakness. But I feel like if they've got bludgeoning weakness, they should also probably have, let's see, thunder, right? And then if we're giving them that, we could balance it out by giving them necrotic resistance, because necrotic magic brought them to life. Okay, that's turning into a much more diverse like creature for sure. Let's see. Falling apart. If the Juggernaut does not have all of its hit points at the start of the turn, it starts to fall apart. If the Juggernaut is reduced to 0 health, 12 skeletons rest of its remains. We don't really need all that. Thunderbeast skeleton is pretty much just a skeleton. Yeah, none of these are really deviating at all from the theme of skeleton. So I guess it is what it is. Let's see. I could also open up the Roll20 Compendium as well, which would allow me to look up some of the Kobold Press monsters. Alright, let's see. Alright, Bone Devil, Bone Powder, Bone People, Bone Claw, Bone Knight, Bone Golem. There we go. This is like the ultimate skeleton, because it's both a skeleton and a construct. Here we go. False appearance. While the bone golem remains motionless, is indistinguishable from a pile of bones or ordinary inanimate skeletons. So somebody did it before us. Thank goodness. Let's see. Immutable form. The bone golem is immune to any spell or effects that would alter its form. That seems right? Right? Because you're a skeleton, you wouldn't be anything else. Oh, yeah, that could be cool. Because they're almost always used like soldiers. Okay, so let's see. And instead of Savage Striker, and this one, we can go ahead. There is a trait for that. And that trait is... let's see. Let's see if it just shows it for Striker. Savage Assault, Revenge, Press the Attack. Press the Attack's kind of cool. You have advantage on attack rolls against bloody targets. It's kind of neat. Let's see. Let's keep going, though. Corrosive Body, Critical Defense, Critical Fury. Let's see. Disintegration, Earth Glide, Freedom of Movement, Hover, Immortal. Eventually, we'll have all these memorized. Impenetrable. That's kind of cool. Parry. Rampage, Reckless, Redirect. Siege Monster, Slippery, Sure-Footed, Teamwork. There it is. You have advantage on attack rolls when your target is within 5 feet of an unrestrained ally. I kind of like that, but I kind of feel like Teamwork is pack tactics, and pack tactics is very powerful, and also maybe iconic of certain monsters already. I don't know if I really want to give that to just run-of-the-mill skeletons. It could be something you could add to like kobold skeletons or something like that. But yeah, I almost want to say that the lifeless appearance and the versatile attacker might just do it. Again, we're trying to make a simpler monster here. All right. I'm just looking at all this stuff to see if there's anything that sort of jumps out at me. Nah, let's just leave it as is for now. So under actions, we have essentially it's just normal attack. So we're just gonna call it attack, and then we'll call it variable damage. Okay, and then it is a melee or ranged attack. Done. I solved that problem. So whatever the skeleton happens to be equipped with, that's what they're going to do. And that way this stat block covers whatever we need it to cover, which is kind of cool. I feel like if I was a skeleton, I would be hesitant to carry around a bludgeoning weapon, because that's kind of weird. Let's see. Parry might be kind of cool because it could represent the armor scraps that they no longer have access to. Because the original skeleton has a 13 armor class, this is a 10 armor class, but parry would essentially bring that back for them. So let's go back to traits. I'm going to add parry. Okay, I want to select it then. Thanks. Alright, here we go. Spend your action and get +3 against one melee attack. So that could represent the attack going through the bones. That could represent them knocking loose bones that don't matter. It could represent the skeleton actually having a piece of crap shield still. Again, we want this stat block to be able to represent any skeleton that we need. So I kind of like the idea of the parry there. Alright, so under reaction, that is where parry would go. Unless the stat block was smart enough to do that for us. It was not. Okay. So let's go grab that from here. And put it in twice. Or I guess we could delete it now from traits. Because we don't need it in 2 places. Alright. Doesn't need Paragon actions, doesn't need Ledger actions, doesn't need Layer actions. So I think we're done. So let's take a look at our... Oh wait, we still has this knockback ability that they default give it. So let's see. We already have versatile attacker via attack, so we could change out its damage. What other thing could a skeleton do that would be interesting in battle? I guess knocking back somebody would do it. I mean, it would show that they're a versatile opponent. And you don't need pack tactics if you've just pushed someone down. Because now all the other skeletons are going to have advantage against them anyways. So I feel like that actually fills a niche there, because if you're fighting multiple skeletons and you want them to seem like they have combat tactics, being able to push people is a big deal. Well, this is pushing. So we will say shove. The target is either pushed up to 10 feet away or knocked prone. And we won't do 10 feet away, we'll do 5 feet away because it's a shove. There we go. So that's that. The skeleton can get a little bit, can push or knock prone for primary. Absolutely. Oh, maneuver sounds a lot better, though technically it's just a shove. So, how about this? We'll do both. Shove, maneuver. Good old French combat words. All right, let's check our boy out. He's a level 1 striker, he's level 10. He's got 33 hit points. Good God, that's a lot for a skeleton. But if you're using a skeleton smasher, you're going to be doing alright. A grapple? Technically anything could grapple. It just wouldn't be very good. It would be an athletics of +1, which is actually better than its secondary. You'll notice right here that its secondary is only a DC 10. So if it's trying to grapple you... And I also feel like we're going to hear from the Zombies Union if we give this thing grapple. Because, I mean, honestly, who grapples? Zombies grapple. Like, we can't be taking that away from the zombies. So we'll give Skeletons shove maneuver, and we'll give zombies the grapple. So we can even do basic bitch zombie next to get that knocked out. All right. So they're vulnerable to bludgeoning and thunder, because why would you not be affected by thunder the same way as bludgeoning in this instance? They are resistant, however, to piercing and necrotic. And they're immune to poison. Blah 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 blah. All their attacks are at +5 with 3 damage. We do need to maybe commit to a range increment? Question mark? I don't know. Do we really need to? I guess we could just give it the short bow range. Or, you know what? We'll just give it a range of 80 feet. And beyond that, the skeletons don't literally have the muscle to fire any further than that. So, nah, you know what? We'll just leave it up to the DM to decide what the reach is, because that's kind of what Giffyglyphs is about anyways. It's letting the DM interpret it what's best for combat. So, alright, so this represents just sort of a basic skeleton. Okay. They can swap out their damage because you don't know for sure what they're attacking you with. Are they throwing their own bones at you like a Castlevania skeleton? All that jazz. Lifeless appearance, which we were on the right track for because Creature Codex had that. Here's their basic attack block. Here's their shove maneuver. And then they get a reaction to parry to sort of represent that armor class coming back from before. It is tempting to drop their hit points just a little bit. So I don't know how much I want to drop their hit points by. Maybe I'll just drop it down to 30. Nice even 30. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to save this up. So now we have a skeleton. Cool.